In this video, we will be discussing the economic analysis of law. Whenever there is a general understanding of or engagement with the analysis of law takes place, it generally is premised on the understanding that the sphere of law has certain autonomy and certain element of objectivity in it. When we look at the analysis of law mostly from the what broadly can be considered as mainstream theories of law, they generally are premised on certain fundamental features. One of the features of this is that law is always looked at as independent of other spheres. The other spheres means economy and politics and social spheres. So, therefore, it is always looked at as independent from other human activities and other understandings of society. It also comes along with an understanding that it has certain features means which in fact maintain certain amount of autonomy and independence. That means that it is not influenced by other spheres, and at the same time it also maintains certain autonomy in terms of deciding issues in relation to economy, politics and society. As a result of these certain specific features to it, it also comes up with a view that because of this specific nature of law, it attains some special authority many a time which is dealt with by specialists like lawyers, judges and judicial institutions. So, therefore, the fundamental premise on which the general understanding, which broadly can be also arguably can be considered as a positivist notion of law, specifically relies on this understanding of autonomous, independent and objective nature of law. But this aspect of the mainstream understanding of law has been critiqued by several legal analysis, in the sense that several radical critiques of law have challenged this autonomous, independent nature of law and argued that law's claim for its autonomy and independence is a myth. It is dependent on various other social factors including politics, economy and law. One of those serious critiques of the field of law comes from Marxism, what broadly can be considered as a Marxist analysis of law. When we look at the field of Marxist analysis is a comprehensive analysis of society which includes economy, politics, society, law and other spheres. So, therefore, law is one component of it on which the Marxist analysis takes place. When we look at Marxism as a comprehensive idea and especially based on what Marx has visualized about the society and politics and economy, law does occupy a significant place, but for whatever reasons, however, Marx or Engels did not comprehensively deal with the question of law in any of the texts as an independent exercise, which means that we do not come across much of Marx's direct writings on law and its implications, but in various texts and various analysis when Marx was engaging with the field of other spheres in the analysis of economy and politics, he often dealt with the questions of law in terms of a jurisprudence, juridical personality, legal institutions and the fundamental characteristics of law. In fact, it is argued by some that even during early days of Marx, he engaged with the questions of law when he was more in favor of a kind of a radical liberal democracy understanding when he dealt with the questions of law as to how law was operating, and he moved from that while looking at the field of law into what could be considered as later Marx when he thoroughly analyzed the economic and the political spheres. So, therefore, law was not outside Marx, but Marx completely or fully did not deal with as a comprehensive exercise, but at the same time dealt with as part of the analysis of various other spheres of human existence. So, therefore, as I said, Marxism comprehensively deals with the question of the human activity as a kind of an analysis. It equally contains some of the spheres which law governs or law's fundamental nature as to how, in what role law plays in human activities. When we look at the Marxist analysis of or Marx reflections on law, one has to broadly go to the fundamental categories that Marx has dealt with when he analyzes the social process at a larger level. That is what we call as a base superstructure. Through the base superstructure metaphor, Marx attempted to understand how the society moves from one stage to the other. In that process, he placed economic relations in the sphere of base, which is like the primary moving factors to the social process. That is, the economic relations govern the other factors. Therefore, the economic relations constitute base, and the superstructure constitutes politics, ideology, law and other spheres. So, therefore, from the broader understanding of Marxism and in relation to the law is generally placed at the superstructure level. So, if you look at this way, without getting into the kind of a crude analysis of economic relations only determining the superstructure part of it, what we can understand it, because there is a lot of debate with regard to what is the relation between a base and a superstructure. The most a crude or a classical understanding of it is that economic relations primarily determine the superstructure, that is politics, economy, politics, ideology and law. But what needs to be emphasized in this is, without getting into the debates of what determines what in what way, the emphasis of Marxism is that the law is predominantly governed by the existing economic relations, which means that its implication is that the economic relations, those who dominate the economic relations, the nature of the economic relations that exist in a particular society would determine what constitutes a law. Means that it primarily serves the interest of the ruling classes, not in an instrumentalist sense, but in the sense of economic relations almost definitively determining the substance of the legal framework, which includes both law and legal institutions, judiciary and other spheres in relation to the law. So, therefore, the essence of law is that the discussion when we started, that the mainstream understanding of law predominantly emphasizes the autonomous nature of law. The Marxist understanding of law, including Marx's views on at various levels, have emphasized the fact that law is not an autonomous entity, and also it cannot claim a universal it cannot make any universal claims. In a mainstream understanding, it generally understood that law applies to everyone in an even manner, that is, it has certain universal elements in it. But Marx's understanding is that, in fact, though it makes claims with regard to the universality of law and legal principles, it essentially serves certain class interests, that is, the ruling classes, which are determined or based on the economic relations that exist in a society. The dominant bourgeoisie, in a capitalist mode of economy, the bourgeoisie primarily determines what constitutes law, because they are the ones who would be governing other spheres or influencing the other spheres of human activity, which includes politics and social relations. So, when we broadly look at the Marxist understanding or Marx's understanding of law, first of all, the Marx's take on law is that it denies any element of autonomy that exists to the law, which generally argued by mainstream lawyers. So, therefore, he makes it extremely clear that there is no such autonomy that exists for law. Law essentially depends on other social activities, which predominantly is, if going by the base superstructure metaphor, predominantly depends on economic relations which govern the laws making part of it. So, this is how broadly the law is placed as part of the Marx analysis of legal framework. But later on, several other attempts were made in terms of understanding the law in relation to Marxist understanding of other spheres in a much more nuanced way. So, one important jurist one can call is Eugeny Pashukin is from the erstwhile Soviet Union. He was the one who, in a much more nuanced way, attempted to understand what is the role of law as to how law's origins are in relation to other social relations. And he came up with is a kind of an understanding that the law's origins are primarily linked to the capitalist mode of relations. So, therefore, he developed the idea that the commodity exchange theory of law, where he tried to emphasize that the law that we understand today, that the shape that the law has taken over a period of time essentially came from a capitalist mode of production and capitalist exchange of commodities. So, what he tries to understand is that when the commodities are produced, the fundamental character of capitalist society is that commodities are exchanged. So, in the process of exchange of commodities between two individuals or two legal entities, now that is where the significance of the origins of law start from, in the sense that when there was no commodity exchange, in fact there was not much of a significance to law. So, therefore, what we understand today as law as a legal personality essentially started in the capitalist mode of production as well as capitalist mode of exchange of commodities. So, therefore, the entire base of law or law's essential characteristics are very much linked to the capitalist mode of production and the way capitalist exchange of commodities has taken place over a period of time. So, therefore, his understanding is that he relates the nature of law and its origins of law primarily to the mode of production or economic relations part of it. So, because this also he tried to extend this understanding by way of relating it in a socialist society as well as in a communist society, where it is generally argued that in a communist society there will be a withering away of the state, therefore, the withering away of the law. So, that means that in Pachucani's understanding, if you can do away with the capitalist relations of production and if you can establish the socialist society where there is no possibility of exchange of commodities for the purpose of profit, that the way it is generally understood, therefore, the significance of law goes. Means that the essential element of law that we understand today, that the juridical character of the law and legal institutions would be done away with the moment you take away the economic relations that primarily govern the capitalist mode of production and capitalist form of exchange of commodities. Now, essentially this is how one has to look at it. Broadly, there are certain nuances, but broadly this is what Marx and Marxist understanding of law primarily is based on. Now, is there any relevance, or can it be said as the Marxist analysis of law is still relevant for the purpose of understanding of how law operates in a globalized period? What needs to be emphasized is that the Marx's understanding of law is not just understanding of law, but Marx's understanding is a comprehensive understanding of history and human society in its larger sense. Therefore, so far as a law and legal and justice is concerned, what needs to be emphasized is the Marxist understanding or a Marx understanding of law and justice are as relevant as ever, at least for the purpose of understanding how in the contemporary economic scenario in a globalized world, bringing in certain changes in the field of law and how that is affecting in certain respects what probably Marx would have said is going against the working class or against the subalterns, in favor of the law and legal institutions working in favor of the bourgeoisie or the newly emerging what one can call it as a transnational capitalist class. So, therefore, for the purpose of analysis and understanding of the law in a contemporary globalized world, the Marxist analysis of law would give important tools for the purpose of understanding the nature of the law and its implications in larger sense. Thank you.